I chose her husband's twin. The first time I saw Jacob after all those years, it was like looking into a mirror of my marriage and realizing the reflection was warmer, softer, and far more dangerous than the life I had built. My husband Daniel was everything stable. A quiet accountant with steady hands and steady hours. The kind of man who believed love was more about duty than passion. I had convinced myself that worked for me. We had the neat little house by the lake, the well-planned dinner parties, and the calm predictability everyone envied. I cherished that calm until Jacob arrived. He had been gone for 15 years, removed from the family after a bitter falling out no one fully explained, though little shards of gossip suggested women, debts, and lines crossed. He came back because their mother had fallen ill, and in his presence the air felt heavier, richer. I saw the shadow in his smile, the way his gaze lingered a second too long. The betrayal did not come from him, at least not at first. It came from Daniel. One night, my phone lit up as I was setting the table. A message from a number I recognized but never saved. It was Anna, our mutual friend. I saw Daniel with her again. My stomach twisted. I stepped into our bedroom, pulled open the wardrobe, and smelled perfume that was not mine on his jacket. Sweet, heady, floral, the kind that clings long after skin has cooled. He confessed eventually, though he tried to tame it with words like mistake, and it meant nothing. But something in me broke. The tidy life I had guarded shattered at the edges. The taste of my own tears was metallic and bitter, and I could hear the hollow echo of my footsteps in the kitchen when I paced alone at night. That was when Jacob started helping. Fixing the porch steps Daniel had let rot, bringing soup when I had a cold, waiting just a hair too long before saying goodbye. Late one afternoon, rain curled mist around the lake, and we stood together under the porch roof as droplets drummed against the wood. He handed me a mug of tea, the steam curling between us. I noticed his fingers were the same shape as Daniel's, but his touch, when it brushed mine by accident, sent my pulse racing in a way Daniel hadn't in years. A part of me hated myself for feeling it. Another part clung to the warmth, like drowning lungs cling to air. Jacob had this habit of looking directly into you, as though he could see every unspoken thought. And in those weeks after the betrayal, my thoughts were not kind. They were hungry, restless, aching. If this confession has you holding your breath, hit like and share because you will not believe what happened next. One evening, Daniel was late again. Jacob brought over a box of old family photos to cheer me up, though I suspected he simply wanted an excuse to stay. We sat on the rug, our knees touching. His voice was low and rough as he pointed to a picture from their teenage years, and I laughed without meaning to, something I hadn't done with Daniel in months. The fire crackled beside us, smelling faintly of cedar, and I felt the warmth of Jacob's arm along mine. That tiny space between us seemed to hum, and I wondered if he felt it too. He told me softly about his years away, the cities, the mistakes, the loneliness. In those moments, the tension wasn't just attraction, it was understanding. We were both outsiders now. When Daniel finally came home, I saw Jacob's gaze shift, something protective and stubborn flaring in his eyes. He left quickly, but I could still feel the echo of his presence in the room, lingering like the faint scent of his cologne, earthy with a trace of spice. Days blurred together, each one stitched with this forbidden thread. He would appear at the edge of my morning walks, bringing fresh bread from the bakery. Once, he repaired the gate without asking, his shirt damp with sweat, the sun catching in his hair. I'd stand beside him pretending to inspect his work, all the while bound in that silent magnet between us. We didn't act on it then. The danger was real and immediate. Yet in stolen glances, we were already telling each other everything we could not speak aloud. When Daniel left for a weekend conference, I thought I would spend it alone. But the rain came hard again, and with it, Jacob dripping on the threshold, smiling sheepishly. We cooked together, listening to the hiss of oil in the pan and the steady tap of rain on glass. The red wine was rich and warm, tasting like courage and something reckless. By the end of the night, sitting across from him, I realized my grief had shifted. It wasn't only about what Daniel had taken from me, but about what I might still allow myself to find. We talked about guilt, about fear, about the fragile bridges between desire and disaster. I admitted that I no longer knew how to love someone without losing myself. Jacob said quietly, "You already know. You are loving me that way now." My breath caught, not because the words were shocking, but because they were true. We didn't cross that final line, but the choice was already hanging between us, like a ripe, sun-warmed fruit neither dared to touch. And in that space, I felt alive again. Daniel returned, bringing his detachment with him, never suspecting the undercurrents swirling beneath our calm domestic surface. Jacob and I became experts in quiet conspiracies, shared smirks at family dinners, fingers grazing over a carton of milk in the kitchen, conversations about nothing that said everything. I began to heal, not in spite of the danger, but because of it. In Jacob's presence, my grief for the marriage I thought I had turned into fuel for something braver, if riskier. Whether we would survive this without destroying ourselves was uncertain, but the possibility of love after loss had already taken root in me. When their mother finally recovered, Jacob stayed in town. Daniel thought it was for her. I knew better. And every time I walked down to the lake and found Jacob waiting there, leaning on the fence, the late sun burning gold in his eyes, I felt that dangerous, undeniable truth press against my ribs. Some second chances aren't planned. They find you when you are almost gone. If you crave more raw emotional confessions, please like, share, and subscribe. Your next chapter awaits.